Welcome to RC Pilates. I'm Ursula and I teach Pilates, and I would like to teach you today how to prepare yourself for the exercises. So basic setup in different position, okay? So in Pilates, when we are standing up, we want to create that neutral spine, okay, that you might have heard. So we want to keep the feet exactly under our hip. And one way to test it, my way to test it, or many other instructors, is to put your fist between your knee joints, okay? And that's kind of the gauge for you to know what's hip width. Now, as you are standing, roll your shoulders back, okay? You do not want to be hunched in any way. It's very important to have the shoulders in line with your hips and then with the mirror. So it's brilliant if you could have access somewhere to a mirror, okay, to check yourself out. Otherwise, maybe with the corner of your eye, just scan down if your shoulder is in line with your hip and with the ankle, okay? Now roll your shoulders a little bit more back, and the core setup. Quite critical. We want to strengthen and lock basically that middle part that will give us the strength and power. This is our powerhouse, okay? So how we set up the core. Core is not just your rectus abdominis, the usual superficial six-pack, but it's the whole TVA. We call that area, that belt around your waist, with lots of different muscles, with your lats, with your obliques, internal and external, and with your rectus abdominis. But also what's important is the pelvic floor. That's our part of the core setup, and the glutes, okay? So let's just quickly key the core engagement. If you can put your middle finger on your hips and your thumb on the bottom part of your ribs, and then draw those ribs to the hips, not the hips to the rib, okay? So it's very important. Just crunch and contract your abs. That's really what you want. Now, breathing, quite critical. We lock the abdominal chamber by locking the diaphragm. It's the little muscle sitting between our chest and our abs, and we breathe through the ribs. So if you want to check that you're breathing properly through the Pilates, place your palms onto your rib cage, okay, on your, just under the belly, just above your belly, sorry, under the breast, and take a deep breath for me and see if you can breathe to the side. It's called lateral breathing. So inhale for me through your nose. Allow those fingers to part and then start exhaling. Okay, so that's your test if your ribs are moving to the side. The other way is to test if you place your palms onto your on the side of your rib cage, okay? And as you take the breath in, see your arms, see your hands being pushed away by the inhalation, and then exhale slowly. Okay, so that's the breathing set. Pelvic floor, I've mentioned before, important of the Pilates setup. They are the muscle that hold your organs. So you have to imagine them and get connected to all those outputs, okay? Zap them in and lock them. Sometimes we want to do it by squeezing the glutes. That's not how you're engaging your pelvic floor muscles. You really need to envisage those lower muscles and really bring them up to your belly button. Okay, so that's kind of basic Pilates setup in the standing up position. I am going to move down to the floor and do the setup in other position. So now we are on the floor. Hopefully you've managed to get there too if you want to practice it with me. So I will teach you now the setup for all the other exercises that are being carried on the floor in your supine neutral position, which is lying on your back. So let's just lower ourselves down to the mat. You want to have your feet hip apart like in the standing up. What's important is again that core engagement. So when we are laying down, we often relax. The same principle like in a standing up, we want to contract engage that belt, that core with the pelvic floor and back to that thoracic breathing. So again, you can practice that connection with your middle finger and your thumb and just contract. This is very often the mistake people make is shifting the pelvis up to your ribs. That's really not what we want to do. We want the hips and the pelvis to be nice and flat and neutral on the floor. Okay. The other thing, so you just really need, it's a very small movement, but you want to contract those muscles and your obliques. Now, the other thing to watch in the neutral setup is that gap between your spine. Very often we do the arching and we stick our ribs to the ceiling. You want to really push them down and connect with your spine with the mat, okay? Sometimes what does help connecting is just raising the shoulders. This teaches you very well how to engage the core, pelvic floor, and then continue. Remember about breathing, okay? So that's what we're aiming in that neutral, having that core stabilized. Okay, so I will continue now and do one more setup with the prone position. Now we are in our prone position, so lying on the front of your body, and let's just lower the whole body up. So in that position, we do a couple of exercises like swan and raising the shoulders. So it's very important as well to support your lumbar part, the lower part of your back, by having the right core engagement in that position. Your belly button probably is happily connecting with the mat, but that's exactly what we don't want to do. So I want you to bring the belly to your spine and create a hollow space under your belly, okay? Again, the same little contraction that we bring the ribs to your hips and hold your abs. It might feel uncomfortable. Watch out that your glutes are not firing, i.e. squeezing them. We don't want to squeeze the glutes necessary unless the exercise is requiring that support of the muscles. For the setup, we just want to bring the belly button up, creating a space for a little pebble or mortiza. And then we're ready to go and start engaging with some of the swan exercises or leg raises. Okay, so that's our setup in the front position.